What challenges face international arbitration award enforcement? Imagine winning a dispute in one country, only to find out that your victory might not be recognized or enforced in another. That's the reality many face with international arbitration awards. When parties from different nations settle disputes through arbitration, making sure the decision is followed through on can be tricky. This is especially true in sports and entertainment, where disputes often cross borders quickly and involve high stakes. Arbitration is a process where two parties agree to have a neutral person, called an arbitrator, decide their dispute instead of going to court. An arbitration award is the final decision made by that arbitrator. When the arbitration involves parties from different countries, it becomes international arbitration. Enforcement means making sure the losing side complies with the award, like paying money or doing what was ordered. But enforcing these awards across borders isn't always straightforward. Different countries have different rules and legal systems, which can cause delays or even refusals. Most countries are part of the New York Convention, a treaty that encourages courts to recognize and enforce foreign arbitration awards. Still, there are limits. Countries can refuse enforcement if the award goes against their public policy or if the arbitration process was unfair. For example, if a court finds that the award violates basic legal principles or societal values, it might refuse to enforce it. Courts in the European Union, for instance, sometimes review awards to ensure they align with EU laws and fundamental rights, especially when arbitration is mandatory for athletes or clubs. Another challenge is the recognition and enforcement procedures themselves. Each country has its own rules, which can be slow and costly. You might need to hire local lawyers, translate documents, and navigate unfamiliar court systems. This can be especially frustrating in sports and entertainment, where disputes involve athletes, artists, or clubs from many countries. The process can take months or even years, and costs can pile up quickly. Consent is also a tricky issue. In commercial disputes, parties usually agree voluntarily to arbitration. But in sports and entertainment, athletes or artists often have no real choice but to accept arbitration clauses in federation or association rules. This mandatory aspect raises questions about fairness and whether parties truly consented. If someone claims they were forced into arbitration, it could complicate enforcement. Power imbalances are another concern. Some arbitration bodies, like the Court of Arbitration for Sport, are linked to sports organizations, which can lead to questions about independence. Large organizations or federations often have more resources and influence than individual athletes or artists. This imbalance might make some parties hesitant to accept awards or seek enforcement, fearing unfair treatment. In sports, disputes over player transfers or disciplinary actions often end up in arbitration. If a club is ordered to pay a transfer fee, enforcement depends on the legal system where the club is based. Sometimes, courts are reluctant to enforce awards if they believe procedural fairness was lacking or if fundamental rights are at risk. In entertainment, issues like breach of contract or intellectual property rights can be complicated if the losing party moves assets or refuses to pay. Enforcement then depends heavily on international cooperation and the specific terms of the arbitration agreement. To sum up, enforcing international arbitration awards faces hurdles like differing national procedures, public policy exceptions, questions about whether parties truly agreed to arbitration, and power imbalances. While the New York Convention provides a solid legal framework, actual enforcement depends on local laws, court attitudes, and the specific circumstances of each case. For athletes, artists, and organizations involved in international disputes, understanding these challenges helps in planning and protecting their interests. Choosing the right arbitration venue and seeking legal advice in relevant jurisdictions can make a big difference in ensuring awards are enforced smoothly.